Good evening and welcome. I am Dr. Marcea, and this is Up Sis Up, broadcasting live from the Megasource Entertainment and Network. I'm your master destiny life coach, and what we do here at Up Sis Up, this is Women's Empowerment Radio. And what we do is we help women to rise up, we help women to speak up, and we help women to boss up both in life and in leadership. And tonight is no different. And I have a very special guest coming who is a matchmaker, and I want to bring her to the stage. But I also wanted just to share about the importance of, I know we have some entrepreneurs that are in the room, and we think about the times when we may have some IT issues. But the same way we handle those issues, the same way we handle those challenges in life, there's also going to be those issues in our relationships. And so that's why it is so important to have those folks who are qualified in bringing folks together, if that is what you are looking for. But sometimes, a lot of times, there's a science behind it. Sometimes there are some nuances. And so I wanted to bring a matchmaker onto the show to give you some insight, to give you some practical tips, to let you know maybe some of the red flags to look for, so that you can get to that level. If you're looking for a relationship, if you are looking to define your person, this is a great episode to watch. Okay, so without further ado, I want to introduce my special guest tonight. Her name is Cami Barnes, and she is a wife. She is a mom. She is an Atlanta businesswoman. She is a motivational speaker, and I just actually spent some time with her weekend before last in Detroit. And she also is a leadership development coach. And the reason why she's here, she's also the CEO of Linked for Love Matchmaking, and she is driven by a passion for fostering genuine connections among single professionals with marriage in mind. Okay, single professionals with marriage in mind. She has a background in psychology as well as professional development and career coaching, and she understands that intricate balance between ambitious careers and the desire for a fulfilling personal life. Okay, she also is an author and a couple of books. One is Securing the Bag, and the bag is an acronym that stands for Big Audacious Goals. And it is a tool that provides practical tips. Okay, again, we're talking about practical things to help, and a workbook for aspiring leaders to elevate to their next level. She also is a part of an anthology called Deeper Women Teach, Volume 2. And here she provides the steps for leveraging your healing and self-care to reach your greatest potential. She also has a heart for philanthropy and a testimony, and she has launched her nonprofit called Cami Barnes Scholarship Foundation, which provides help for trauma survivors, gives them help for funding to cover their college expenses. And so without further ado, I want to bring Cami to the stage. Okay, here we go. We've all been waiting for this. Okay, if you can hear me in the chat, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you can hear, and we're good to go. All right. So, Cami, I want you to tell us about how the transition happened for you when you went from, I think of the HR, okay, from HR to matchmaking.
So it actually was a pretty smooth transition, just because the skill set is so similar. So I mentioned some of the similarities in terms of assessing people and sort of recruiting for people, so to speak, is really just shifting to from away from workforce development and the human resources piece to helping people find their partner and matching up those qualities and assessing that goodness of fit and vetting people similarly, honestly, to the way that I would vet potential candidates for a position. It's very, very similar, and it's actually funny in the ways that it's similar to vetting people for my clients, in terms of who's going to be a potential match for them.
Okay, okay. So that sounds very exciting in
Mm-hmm.
that you learned a skill set that's now transferable into the
Mm-hmm.
matchmaking, right? But I want to dive a little bit deeper, right? I know it was an easy transition, but what was the thing? What was the spark? What made you say, you know what? This is what I want to do?
Honestly, I think for me, it's because I have a love of love. I really always have.
Mhm.
And because prior to finding my person, I encountered and their purpose. And that's not something that you can find when you're in a relationship with someone who is not compatible with you. And even as far as the whole vetting piece of it, so me doing the background checks, me doing the personality assessments, and me doing all of that assessment piece on the front end before I even present these people as potential matches to my clients, some of that information, it would typically take someone, say you just start talking to someone you met off the street or wherever, it would take you months, sometimes even years, to find out some of the information. And the most recent pop culture situation that we all kind of was thrust into with this whole Risa Tisa thing, where she married that guy and discovered that he was an entirely different person than what she thought she had. And so having someone who can provide this service to sort of assist you through that dating process, something that's completely different from the dating apps where you're just swiping and you're being matched on sort of these surface level types of things that maybe it's AI matching people in that way, whatever it is. You have an actual person who you will be communicating with, having regular calls and communications with. I am having regular calls and conversations with these people that I'm potentially matching you with. And I'm actually making sure that this person has the qualities, has some of the strengths that will complement some of your qualities and maybe some of the things that you don't have. So it's like a really holistic process.
That's very interesting. And so, some of what you said in the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
we were frozen for a little bit, and so I may have missed some of it. But I want
Okay.
you to share, if you can, what you were talking about, how you ask the questions and you gather all the information, and you're helping the client. Can you share just a little bit about what your process is?
Sure.
How is this different from you going to um, Match.com?
Sure. So it's free to join my singles database, but in order to be presented as a potential match, you have to buy the basic package, which would get you your background check, which would get you your personality assessment and your consultation call with me. So there's an initial call, but there's ongoing communications that are happening because it's not just the one personality assessment. I am actively assessing in my communications. I'm getting to know you, getting to know your strengths and weaknesses, getting to know what your expectations are, what your qualities are, what your values are, what you look for in a partner. And so I'm assessing all of that stuff. So the biggest difference is that an actual person that's assisting you through this process versus, you typing in this information and boom, whatever it is, might be AI. I don't know you know, what method they use to match people on there, but they would be matching it more likely than not. It's like a computer generated match where they go off of what you type in, but they're not talking to you. They're not listening to you. They're not able to read between the lines in terms of assessing people.
Mhm.
And so it's that much more personalized in terms of the service.
Yeah. So as you're talking, the thing that comes to mind is, um, I guess, doctoring. Okay, you can go to Google, right, Dr. Google, and you can put in your symptoms, and it can spit out a laundry list
The
of
possibilities.
possibilities of diagnoses, right? But what you're going to miss is you're going to miss the that individual who's now able to uh, hear what you don't say, can pull in
Absolutely.
some nuances, you know,
Hmm.
and that is the piece that will maybe get you to a different destination than if you just do the cookie cutter what what would normally the computer would give you.
Right.
Okay. Cami, can you give us an example? Can you give us an example of when that has been successful? Like,
Sure.
mm,
So, most recently, I had a client that I held a mini mixer event. So essentially what that is it's similar, very similar to speed dating, only it's a bit more time. So speed dating, you would typically get just a few minutes to introduce yourself to whoever this person is in front of you and talk a little bit, and then you move right on to the next person. So for a mini mixer, this particular mini mixer, I presented two potential matches to my client. And he was able to sit with each one of them for 30 minutes to really just have a conversation. But it's just a little taste, little teaser, just to talk enough to make a decision on whether or not you would like to take the person on a real date. So he, was then able to make his decision on which person he felt, he was most interested in, and they continued on from there.
mhm. Okay. So let's talk about the mixer. Okay, the mini
Mhm.
mixer. And to some, well, I'm gonna speak to maybe some misconceptions, and I want you to clear them up if there's something that you believe is a misconception. Okay. What I want to ask you: Are there more women or more men who are looking for that special person? Let's start there.
I wouldn't say there's more men or women. So for my demographic in particular, it's marriage-minded professionals. These are
Okay.
groups of this group over here, maybe they've put so much focus on their careers that they haven't given enough time to finding a partner. Or this other group that maybe they've been married before and they're recently finding themselves back on the dating scene, and they're marriage minded and they're not accustomed to dating in the 2024 atmosphere of the hookup culture and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not really split when it comes to the men and the women, but there's a lot of similarities just because of the demographic. These are successful people. So it's the men that are having some of this, some similar challenges in terms of finding someone on their level that, isn't just seeking them for the financial status or whatever the case may be. And the same is true for the women that are in this demographic as well. They want somebody that's more on their level, particularly the entrepreneurs, because it takes a certain type of partner who can really understand and support, somebody who's very entrepreneurial minded. So it's, for me anyway, I can't speak to anybody else's matchmaking business. It's kind of been a split
Okay.
down the middle, men and women.
Okay. And so I guess the next question is, when you have the mixers, it's kind of like is it more of like a blind date kind of feel?
So it's not blind. It's not blind. So, well, you know what? I take that back. So, well, let me think. So I had previously presented a couple potential matches to this particular client before the mini mixer. And then I decided to do the mini mixer just to offer him something a little bit different. So for that, yeah, that was blind. He had not seen those two women before. I did provide him with some basic demographic information about them and some of the reasons why I felt they would be a good fit for him based on what he he was looking for, but no, he had not seen them prior to that mini mixer.
And do you help to kind of prep them before they kind of come into?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100% is funny because I coach them in terms of, we have communications, or I mean, these are adults, but at the same time, I want you to put your best face forward. So I'm going to tell you, like, okay, this is what his type is, and this is kind of what he's going to be expecting. So you need to bring it. If you're really positioning yourself for a potential partner, you want to put your best face forward. So you want to make sure that you dress nice, that treat this like it's a real date, because first impressions are important. So yeah, for both, I do provide coaching in terms of how that goes. I tell them specifically what topics to avoid, because you don't want to get into anything too heavy for an initial date or initial meeting with somebody. We stay away from finances. We stay away from negative topics. We stay away from anything that's too heavy, because you don't want to scare the person away, just sort of divulging too much way too soon. That is a complete no-no. So yeah, I do. I prep them.
Okay. So that's one of the, I guess, one of the big pieces that's different from you going to a dating website. You have somebody who is actually, one, talking to that person, kind of vetting them, but also you're now coaching them as well, so that when they show up to the event, to the mixer, if you will, in this particular event, you have a little bit of knowledge, and you now can make whatever adjustments, or at least you kind of just know what you're walking into.
Right.
Okay. So,
sure.
So Cami, so what's the formula, would you say, in finding in terms of what's the importance of different pieces to the pathway of finding that right match, that right chemistry?
I would say the most important thing is being very self-aware. You have to be very self-aware and understand whether or not you are actually ready for a relationship. There are people who think they're ready for a relationship, a serious relationship, and they aren't. They haven't done the work. They haven't healed from previous relationships and old baggage they may be carrying. They may be a bit jaded when it comes to the whole process. And so one of the key things that I tend to impress upon them quite a bit is you have to have an open heart, open mind, and don't go into this with a rigid mindset of this laundry list of things that this person must meet. And you're just so rigid in your thinking that you could potentially turn away someone who could be a great partner for you, because you're so focused on all of these things that in the big scheme of things don't really matter. We're looking at, okay, does this person have a good heart? Do their qualities complement my qualities? What are they looking for long term? What are some of their goals? Do those things complement what I would like to do? And so you have to have more of a forward thinking and just a more open mindset, and not be focused on some of the surface level things. And you have to be willing to do something differently, because if you're if you're if you're coming to me for this service, that lets me know, and then I tend to find out in the conversations what's been working for you, what hasn't been working for you. What are some of the things in previous relationships that has been a challenge for you? And so I'm considering all of those things. And so I'm gonna push you a bit to think outside the box and be willing to do something a little bit different from what you've been doing.
Okay. So let's continue down this road. And I think you kind of, you threw out a couple of, I think, these buzzwords, but let's talk about red flags. Okay. Red flags for those clients who think they're ready, but they're not really ready. What would you consider as some red flags?
I can give you some very specific answers on that. I did have a potential client reach out, do a consultation with me, and again, with the just not being very open and just some of the conversation, and it all just really made me feel like she was a bit jaded. because the way that she was communicating with me, it felt like she was questioning whether I would be able to match her because of her age. And, oh, my friends and I have been talking about this, and women in our age group, there's just no good men, and this, that, and the third. And so that sort of talking in your consultation with me, red flags. Okay. Flying everywhere.
Y'all on the video, y'all can see us waving a red flag. Red flag. Okay, what's next?
Exactly, because if you're already so self-defeating and coming into this with a negative mindset, how am I supposed to overcome that hurdle with you? You have to be open in order to be able to do this process. Because if there's whatever it is that had her thinking and feeling that way, that to me, that seems like, okay, if I touch there, it's sore. That's a pain point. Those are some things you need to work through that stuff. Whatever that is, you need to work through that, and then maybe come back with a more open and positive viewpoint, because otherwise, why bother with this? Like, let's not waste my time or your time if you're already doubting whether or not there is somebody for you in the first place.
Yeah. So those in the chat, I want you to put red flag. Okay, put that in the chat, red flag. And if you're not open and you're kind of self-defeating from the beginning. Okay, what other red flags do you have?
The other wow. So this is another good one. Some people just have very unrealistic expectations. Ooh. So people like what they like, which is fine. That's fine. People like what they like. They have what they feel is their type, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes there's misalignments there as far as what they are expecting, what they're wanting, versus what they bring, what they would potentially bring to a relationship or to a partner. Mm-hmm. And an example of that may be, okay, this person, his type is Sanaa Lathan and Halle Berry. But looks wise, realistically, would he really attract somebody at that caliber based off of just the basic? Because mind you, when I'm first presenting these matches, it's a picture, it's some demographic information. So if I presented your pictures to this person that's on this level of what it is that you're looking for, what's the likelihood that, okay, you may be attracted to them, but maybe they wouldn't be attracted to you? So sometimes there needs to be more of a, sort of reality check in a very nice way, in a very, concise and respectful way to say, hey, maybe let's be a little bit more broad in terms of what you're looking for physically, because it's not all about the physical. We're not just focused on the physical, because you may find this person that looks like Halle Berry or whatever the case may be, but she may be the total opposite from what you need in a person, in a partner.
Yeah.
So if all you're looking at is that's not going to help you get what you really want.
Right. So Cami, you just outlined something that it sounds a little dicey, right? It
can definitely get dicey.
Sure. What I'm hearing, for those in the chat, I want you to help me out, okay? Because what you're saying is that, you know what? I have an idea of what it is I want, but I need to be realistic. I have to have realistic expectation, because I have to now examine myself and say, you know what? If I was going to get a Denzel, let's say, okay, would Denzel match with me? Right. So now I'm second guessing myself. But then you're saying, but you know what? Let's just broaden things out, because the physical isn't the main thing. So now it sounds like now you're getting deeper into the psychology.
Absolutely. And see, that's honestly the main point. So take away the whole looks. So some people can be so fixated on the looks that they're not willing to consider everything else. Like that the looks is something that just ranges so high up on their list of priorities that if this person looks wise does not check all the boxes for them, they're not even open to talking to the person. And so that's what I'm trying to steer them away from. And so it's not even necessarily as much, okay, would this person be attracted to you? In some cases it is, though. I'm just being honest, because if you tell me, okay, you want this person that has this athletic build and this, that, and the third, but clearly you don't have that build either, let's simmer down a bit. Let's reel it in a tiny bit. Come on now, work with me here. But I want them to focus more on the entire person. So less about take the looks. Okay, yes, we want there to be a physical attraction. Yes, we do. But don't let that be the most important thing. Don't,
right.
If I present you with somebody who meets all of the characteristics and meets the characteristics physically, they're nice, they're well put together, they're attractive, but maybe she doesn't look like Halle Berry, but she checks all the other boxes. You mean to tell me you're not going to talk to her because she doesn't, have this superstar? Come on.
Right. So I'm gonna pause, and I think this is a good place to interject some Hollywood. Did you happen to watch Love is Blind?
I did.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And so for those who haven't watched it, my daughter drew me in, and so I watched season 6. And so the show was about couples that go in, or individuals that go into this house, and they don't see the other sex. They go on these little dates through a wall. They can hear their voice, but that's it. And so the premise is that you don't have to see the person in order to develop a relationship with them and kind of know if they want to propose, whatever. What did you think about that show?
I love that show. I love all of those shows. It cracks me up at times. It's very entertaining. A lot of the times I'm like, and my husband laughs at me because I'm like yelling at the TV because I can see the red flags are flying. I'm like, this is not a good match. And he's just cracking up laughing at me because I'm like, see, no, that's not going to work. But I love those shows. I do.
And so season 6 was a lot of a drama. Okay. But how do you now incorporate some of what they did in that show? Because we're talking about it is not all the physical. Let's peel things back. As you said, roll it back. Let's reel it in. And say, you know what about the person's personality? What about their life goals? What about how do you do that? How do you get them to reel it in and take a deeper look?
I do actually. I have a couple of clients that I have sort of transitioned to. So these particular clients are open to relocating. They're open to potential matches that are in other states. And for them, their initial meet would be a Zoom date, essentially. And so for these particular clients, they are very, very picky when it comes to the physical aspect of it. And we've had these conversations. So I said, okay, are you open to doing a blind Zoom date with this person? Ooh. And so that kind of ties into what you're asking in terms of that show, because essentially, okay, I'm presenting you with this person. I'm going to give you some demographic information about them and why I think they might be a good fit, but you're not going to see them yet, because I don't want you to just totally make it a no just right off the bat because you see a picture and you have these things in your head about what it is that you're looking for. Talk to the person, get to know them, and we'll go from there. So yes, I have done the blind aspect when it comes to the Zoom dates as well.
And how have they gone? I'm intrigued.
So it's a bit of a mixed bag. I'll say that. And it's funny because when you're in the business of people, there's no way to control every aspect or every factor. And, all you can do is the best you can. And and hope it goes well. But sometimes people shock you, and they, yeah. So I had one person that I thought I got to know pretty well, but this guy turned out to be a bit of a narcissist. And I actually ended up dropping him as a client because he just started to become too difficult to work with. And so that's another aspect of this whole matchmaking piece that's not all, sunshine and rainbows, is that it again goes back to, okay, is this person ready to be in a relationship? But in his case, it wasn't even so much that he wasn't ready to be in a relationship. It's just that some people and their personalities and the way that they go about things are just not conducive to this process, at least the way that I do it. And yeah, so everybody's not your client. And that's the case for any entrepreneur, even with coaching. Absolutely. And you do that, Dr. Marcea, because you've probably come across some coaching clients that you're just like, you know what? I give up. I can't work with you. You here, gone.
Definitely that there's, as I agree, that every client is not your client. And there are some people who are fit better with others. And so, yeah, sometimes you have to know when to send them off. So you mentioned this fella a couple of times. I want to get him in the conversation. You mentioned your husband. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that he's your person, and you said, I forgot exactly how you phrased it, but how did you all meet? Let's start there.
Yeah, so we actually met on social media. We met on Facebook. We were both in the fitness industry at the time. We were Facebook friends for a while. He started inboxing me, and we just, sort of had some conversations. I was in Ohio at the time. He was down here in Georgia. And we hit it off. We decided to meet. So he traveled up to Ohio, and he's never left my side since then. And it's just, we were long distance for the first 2 years. I decided to relocate here to Georgia. We got married the following year, and we've been together for 9 years.
That's amazing. Congratulations. So tell me how, and you mentioned it, I think at the onset, you said you have a love for love. Mm-hmm. Okay. I also noticed that you have hearts on your shirt, on your blouse. Very cute. Tell me, and also we're vibing with the pink tonight. Tell me how your relationship has shaped your business.
So one aspect, there's a newer aspect of the business that, so, as an entrepreneur, things can kind of grow and evolve in different directions. So of course, started with the matchmaking. I actually became ordained as a wedding officiant, and my husband does videography and photography. So it just made sense to create wedding packages in addition to the matchmaking. So that's one way that the business has sort of grown and expanded a bit. But in terms of really just any of my business ventures, my husband has always been super supportive. Anything that I've needed, even, with my nonprofit and things like that, he's very supportive. And if I have an idea, he encourages my ideas. He's also an entrepreneur. So those are some of the ways that we complement each other in terms of having this entrepreneurial spirit and this mindset of, we kind of know what it takes to build a business and that grind and some of the unknowns and the highs and lows that come along with that. So he just compliments me as a person and as a business owner and as, a wife and mom, all of those things. He just compliments me very, very well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So Dr. Tammy, she made a comment when you talked about the narcissist. She said, them narcissists, right? And yes, that's a whole thing. And based on the rate of known narcissism is relatively low. Okay, how in the books. However, when you start having conversation with the women, myself included, the narcissistic traits that we encounter, I think the prevalence is a lot higher, in my opinion. Can you share what what you see on your end?
I would say so. So for this particular client, he had a tendency to be a bit dismissive, and some of the feedback that I got from one of the dates that he went on is that he just talked and talked about himself the entire time. She couldn't hardly get a word in, and he just, he had this super inflated sense of self in terms of what he brought to the table, and he sort of arrogant posturing about himself the entire time, and it just made for a really poor experience for her. And I was like, wow, I'm so sorry about that, because I wasn't expecting that from him. But as time went on, this was a pattern of behavior. And even just from my interactions with him, just with the dismissiveness and the sort of condescending, tone here and there, it just became clear that I'm not the one to provide this service for him. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can we just wave a flag for the narcissist? that's a that's a red flag. Y'all just wave. But a lot of times some of their traits are something that checks a box,
mhm.
right? They can love bomb, they can be very
They can be
attentive.
very charming, especially in the
Mhm.
beginning when you first meet them. They can be
Mhm.
very charming.
Very charming, yep. And they like to gift,
Hmm.
and they kind of put you in that pedestal area, for the first few whatever fill in the blank, but then it can turn south. So
Hmm.
let's leave them in over here. But from let's as far as your dating service, your matchmaking service, we talked some points as to how you're different. Are there any other ways that sets your service aside, makes it unique?
I would say the biggest piece of what makes it unique is I feel like the level of care that I give to my clients in terms of just getting to know them as people and really building that relationship with them. So this isn't me just checking a box of I have X amount of clients and I'm just going to funnel people your way. That's not how I do my business. So it's really genuinely building a relationship with them and getting to know them, and so that, because that helps me ultimately in assessing these potential matches, because I feel like I know, so based on my communications with her and things that she's told me throughout these multiple conversations, some of the things that maybe she didn't even say, but I was able to sort of read between the lines based on some of what she's experienced before. So now I know what I'm looking for. I know what's not going to work well with her. I know that communication styles, this particular type of communication style doesn't work for her. If this person handles conflict in this way, that's not going to mesh well with her personality and how she handles things. So it's just different in that way. The level of care and the level of personalization in terms of this service.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Got you. So I just remember there was something that you said earlier that I wanted to revisit. And Dr. Tammy, she gave us one of those kind of faces. She went like this about leaving a narcissist behind. Um, uh, so you talked about someone who's not ready, who's not healed.
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like that's something that we know what that looks like. But can you walk us through what what unhealed could look like? And I want to come from a place of maybe is that you, right? Am I the one that's unhealed? But also, I want it also to be used so that we can recognize someone who is not healed as far as being a potential mate. Because the reason why I'm asking specifically is that I think there's a desire for folks to get together, But sometimes that desire comes from an unhealthy place, whether you're feeling lonely, maybe you were the one that the other person left or whatever. But I just kind of want to see what that unhealed space looks like.
So that would look different for everyone. It just would be a matter of just having conversations with them to determine one of the main questions that I ask in my initial call is why now? Why do you feel that now is the time? What are some of those things that are making you feel like now is the time? And so I let them sort of expound and tell me where they are in terms of wanting to find their person now. Why do they feel like this is the time? Why not previously? And that tends to give me a good amount of information. Also, what was your longest relationship like? What were some of the challenges in that relationship? What was his communication style? What was your communication style? What types of things do you feel don't work for you in a relationship? And just various communications, and based on their answers I can kind of gauge where they are with things, and I can sort of ask more probing questions to get them talking more.
Mm-hmm.
And if I notice that there's certain things that they express that they need or they're looking for, and the reasons why they feel like they need these things. I'm also, and of course, if they've experienced something traumatic and yet they've not addressed those things, they've not done therapy, they've not done the self work, those are going to be some red flags to me also, because I'm also a trauma survivor. And so I know what that looks like. And I've done work with trauma survivors for a lot of years. And so if you don't handle those things and face those things and go to therapy and do that self work to do your healing, you're bound to continue to repeat certain patterns. And it can certainly impact how you view yourself and what you deserve and what you're willing to take and what you're not willing to take. And so all of those things are being considered.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Thank you for sharing. And one of the things, so when you come across that individual who isn't healed, who needs that therapy, what is, or even coaching, what is it? How do you maneuver them through? What conversation do you have?
So I would recommend therapy. I would recommend therapy. I would recommend coaching, and I would actually just recommend that they take some additional time to really do the work on themselves and preparing themselves to be ready for their person, because ultimately it's not going to be fair to this other person if you try to come into the relationship with all of this stuff that has not been dealt with.
Got it. Yeah.
Because again, you're going to continue to repeat the same things, and you know it's just not going to work in the same way it would if you had actually done the work to prepare yourself and position yourself to be ready for this person.
Awesome. So what I want to do, Cami, if you could just share with us again, what your service is, who you do serve, and how individuals can get a hold of you.
Sure. So my demographic for Linked for Love Matchmaking, that's linked, the number 4 matchmaking, is marriage-minded professionals. And I provide professional matchmaking services. I do background checks. I do personality assessments. I'm matching you on a variety of different aspects. It's a very personalized service that is very, very different from any other sort of, electronic dating app and the rest of the dating services. But in order to reach me, you can go to linked, that's linked, the number 4 love.co, linkedforlove.co. You can also find me at camibarnes.com, that's CAMIBARNES.com, and all of my websites and all of my stuff is hyperlinked there as well.
Amazing. And I know that this is something that I know that you said your husband has been also helping some parts of the parts of the business. And I believe you launched, was it this year or the end of last year?
So I started the business last year. I did the
Last year.
official
Launch. Okay.
earlier this year.
Okay. Okay.
But I had already, sort of created the framework and
All the
started
things.
sourcing clients and database members before the official launch.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So I love the concept. I love the work that you are doing. I'm excited about all of the matches that are going to come through you. And just from talking to you, I get the personalized touch. I also get that there's a certain level of care and concern for each client. I remember watching I don't know if I remember her name, Patty Stanger.
Mhm.
Well, she's a millionaire matchmaker,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that was
And
a
it's
whole
funny because so I'm a part of two matchmaking associations and she's a part of those associations as well. But yeah.
yeah. And so even though there was some, what would you call it? There's some care, but you provide us a different level of care and concern for your clients. And so
The social work background sort of tied
social work.
I think I
Yes.
give a little bit more of the heart to, to this because I sort of have that social work helping field background as well. So my approach is a little different from some other matchmakers. Everybody sort of goes about this work in their own way. Everybody sort of has their own style.
Mhm. So I haven't. I saw a mixer online. I think you were doing some video footage. Can you share what your demographic in terms of racial composition of your clientele, or does it matter?
So it has been mostly African American, but that isn't. It's not necessarily because I've been targeting African Americans, but I feel that it's just such a foreign concept to a lot of us, whereas it's very common in other cultures. So in the Jewish community, matchmaking is very common. It's the norm for them. So the Jewish community, the Asian communities, lots of African communities as well. But in terms of African American community, it's different. It's something that's a little bit more nuanced. And so they're like, oh, okay, let's try this out. Let's give it a try. And so I feel like more people who look like us are sort of gravitating to it because they see me and they're like, oh, okay. And then they see my husband like, oh. And so it's been more of that in terms of who's been wanting to start services. But I'm not limiting myself to a particular ethnicity, but the age range so far has typically been about 35 up to about 50 has been mostly the age range so far.
Mhm.
But it's not, I'm not limiting myself. Like I'm not targeting that group. That just
Once it's come.
that's who it's been so far.
Okay. Yeah, I love it. Well, you're in the right location, but you also you look for folks all over, correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I do work nationwide. So I mentioned those matchmaking associations, and that gives me access to two global databases. And so essentially, all of the matchmakers who are a part of these associations get access to these databases. So they can see who's in my database. They can see pictures, they can see basic demographic information about them. And if they happen to see somebody in my database that could fit with their client, they can reach out to me and say, hey, I have this client, so and so might be a really good fit for them. Can we collaborate and do an introduction? And vice versa. So I can search through the database if I were to get a new client in a particular state, find some potential matches and reach out to whoever that person is, that matchmaker, and say, hey, you have this person and this person that I think might be a good fit for my client that's over here in this state. And that's how we can facilitate matches as well.
Awesome. Good information. Thank you so much, Cami, for being on the Up Sis Up show. I wish you and your business much success and cannot wait to see what's next for you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marcea. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. All right, take care. And there you have it. That was Cami Barnes from Linked for Love, a nationwide matchmaking service. If you would love to go and check her out, go ahead and see her at Cami Barnes. And then she also gave you the link for love.co. And so this has been Dr. Marcea, and I'm your Master Destiny Life Coach. And here on Ups is Up, which is Women's Empowerment Radio, what we do is we help you to rise up, we help you to speak up, and we help you to boss up both in life and in a leadership. You can find me at www.drmarcea, spelled Marcea.com. And so go ahead and follow me on social media platforms, as well as come back here on the MSE Network next Tuesday night. And we have another empowering guest. And actually, next week, we're going to be talking, I'm going to be broadcasting from the Man Cave. This is one of my special features, broadcasting live from the Man Cave here on Ups is Up, Women's Empowerment Radio. Next, I want you to stay tuned for the Destiny Exposure Summit, The Rewind, the Days of a Destiny. Stay tuned.
Hi, and welcome to the Girl Boss Life Academy. I am Dr. Marcea, and I am your Master Destiny Life Coach. And I specialize in helping women to discover who they are, to decide what they want, and then to deliver on their destiny. But what is a girl boss? And I believe every strong woman is powered by the girl boss inside, who is strong, who is tenacious, who is powerful, but who also needs to be encouraged, who also needs to be supported, and who also needs to be loved. And that's what we do here at the Girl Boss Life Academy. And so we help you to redefine who you are, help you to refocus on your goals, and also helps you to redirect your path so that you get to that destination. I remember when I needed that life coach, the decades upon decades of me not knowing the answers, me not feeling confident to make the decisions I needed to make. And so that is what we do here at Girl Boss Life Academy. I use my transformational coaching method to help you to boss up both in life and in a leadership. For those that are ready, go ahead and click and register to get my free gift to you. And you can also learn more about the coaching program. It's time to boss up both in life and in leadership.